Hey all. So in this lecture we will try to understand Appium internal architecture. Okay. So basically Appium follows client server architecture, right? So let me explain you by taking you paint. I'll take the paint to just draw a rough diagram. Okay. So basically this is your editor where you actually write your Appium code. Okay. So you will write all the stuff which needed for automation of mobile apps. So and this is an Appium server and this is an mobile where you have your apps here. Okay. So once you write your code and run it, these commands will reach to the Appium server. Okay. So you need to start the Appium server before you actually run the program. Okay, if you don't start the server and if you run the program, definitely it will throw an error saying no session found. So you need to first start it. The way the commands will be sent to server from notepad is in the form of JSON wire protocol. Okay, so what is JSON wire protocol? What is the speciality of it and why they are using that kind of mechanism to drive? So it's an independent of language. So that we discussed in last sessions, right? You can write Appium code in any of the language like Java, Perl, Ruby, Python, C Sharp. It's up to you. So JSON wire protocol will make you to write your concepts in any language, and if you send with that protocol, finally it will end up with sending slash session. Okay, getting my point? If you use JSON wire protocol concept here, whatever language you write your code, finally whenever it reaches the Appium server, it will be reaching it as a session object. Okay, it's HTTP session object which is a language independent. So Appium server will have the capability to interpret the session object which is sent by the client. So this is our client now. We can use any of our client libraries to write our Appium code. Client libraries in the sense, just know what I have discussed. Whatever the language you write, that is your client library. So this client library code will be sent to Appium in the form of JSON wire protocol. So by taking the help of JSON wire protocol or whatever language you write your code, ultimately they will be end up by in the form of session object. They will reach the Appium server in the form of session object which is a headless. Okay, that is independent of any language. So Appium server has the capability of interpreting that session object and understand the commands what you have sent from your client side. Okay, so this server understands the commands and it triggers that particular invocation in the mobile. So this Appium server will act as a proxy between the mobile you are testing and the client libraries where you write your actual code. Okay, so that's the reason without starting the Appium server you cannot run your program. Fine. So this Appium server here have the capabilities of both Android framework as well as iOS framework. Okay, they have inbuilt capabilities in such a way that they have Android UI automator. Basically Android UI automator is the framework which is given by the Android guys to test their Android apps. Okay, and for iOS they have given iOS instrumentation a framework to test iOS apps. So those two frameworks are bundled in Appium here. Okay, so those are inbuilt in our Appium server. So whenever you send your code in the form of session object, it will take out that object and it will interpret and understand that whether it has to use Apple instrument framework or Android UI automator framework to actually start the automation. So if you send the code in such a way that I have to automate it in Android, so it will interpret and understands that it has to use Android UI automator framework to automate the things or to invoke the things in this app. Okay, so how to send commands to Appium to understand that to which OS we need, which browser we need, which app we need to invoke. Okay, that we need to write in a special mechanism called desired capabilities. Okay, that what is desired capabilities we will see in our coming sessions. Okay, let's not make things complicated in this session. So desired capabilities are the one with which you declare your commands. That means whatever app you need to invoke, what browser you need, what OS you need, that all capabilities you will be providing in an desired capabilities object and you will send as a session. Okay, so this concept is handled by JSON wire protocol. Okay, so when you provide the information in the form of desired capabilities object, Appium server will receive this in the form of session object and it will interpret and execute those particular commands here. So that's how internal architecture happens at the backend. So Appium server have the capability to understand what information you send to it. If you ask to send that I need automation now in iOS, then by reading the session object what you have sent in the form of desired capabilities object, it will interpret and understands that, and in that way it uses iOS instrumentation framework which is given by Mac Apple guys to automate the things in iOS. So that headache Appium server will take care for us. You need not worry. So what all you need to do from your front end is define proper capabilities. I mean define proper steps to understand Appium server. For that you need to follow some mechanism. Okay, we need to use some class called desired capabilities. So that we will be seeing in our coming sessions. So that is the first lecture I'm going to teach before I actually start about the coding from Appium perspective. So you need to understand that. So you have to write in desired capabilities object format. So then only it creates a session which is which can Appium can interpret that. Okay. So that's how JSON wire protocol mechanism works. So because of that, even Selenium in the same sense. So whatever language you write, the WebDriver can understand. In the same way, you write it in Java, Ruby, Python, C#, whatever language you use the client library, but finally it will reach here as a session object. Okay, so you need to know the backend what's happening before you start. Okay, so Appium have the capabilities of both iOS and Android frameworks inbuilt in it, which can take care of your testing, right? So now come back, these are the concepts which are officially defined by Appium guys in their side. You can see that it's happening client server architecture, Appium client libraries. You can see all the keywords which I have described you in this diagram. Post session, but they all end up sending a post session request to the server with a JSON object called desired capabilities. So if you read this before having this architecture understanding, you will just feel like all the new words and you will fed up. Okay, so now after this explanation, try to read the concepts here. You will definitely understand what they are trying to explain. Okay, so that's how the internal architecture of Appium works. So in coming sessions we'll start with what are the desired capabilities object and how we need to define in such a way that our Appium server understands what actions it need to perform. Okay, so we'll meet in our next session. Thank you.